What's going on, everybody? My name's Kyle and this is my channel. I decided to start this channel a couple months ago when I met with some people that had been through similar things, and they were telling me about where they were at in life, and we kind of started talking about our experiences and what we've been through, and they really pushed me to begin sharing my story. My story revolves around my heart. At the age of 22, I had open heart surgery. I found out that I had a heart, I don't want to call it a disease, but a heart issue that was going to be the demise and cause the death of me if it was not caught first, and if it was not taken care of after it was caught. So that's kind of what this channel is going to be about. I'm going to go talk about the lead up, how it was found. I'm going to talk about surgery day. I'm going to talk about aftermath. Just first off, waking up in the recovery room the day or right after surgery. The recovery process that went along with the whole open heart surgery. I will also get into the near-death experience that happened during this. I'll get into the psychological effects of all this, the physical effects, my goals, what I want to get out of doing this, and why I'm doing this. And then I also just want to build a culture and a community around health and fitness and wellness. The start of my heart-to-heart team that I'm starting up for the Cincinnati Heart Mini Marathon. So I am trying to put together a team for that half marathon in March that the American Heart Association puts on. So I'm trying to put together a team, bring together people from everywhere, trying to bring in friends, family, anybody who has dealt with any type of heart issues, and anybody who has dealt with anybody or has dealt themselves with heart issues and were under the age of 25. Specifically, sudden cardiac arrest in kids under the age of 25. So if you know anybody that has gone through that, if you know any other families where unfortunately their children have passed away from sudden cardiac arrest, or if you know anybody who is still surviving and living a great life that went through that when they were young, send them my way. So the topic of today is the lead up to the surgery. So like I said, this kind of was sprung on me very quickly. I was 22 years old at the time, so it was back in December of 2021. I was 22 years old. I just turned 22 back in May of that year. I was going in December to go talk to my family physician for my yearly checkup. Something I've done ever since I was a little kid, playing sports, growing up. You have to go get yearly physicals. So I kind of just got into the habit of doing that, and I've continued that habit up until even today. I've always gone at least once a year to see my family physician. I love my family physician. He's the best. He knows me. He knows how I roll, how I, deal with things, if I'm sick, I'm sick. If I'm not, he knows me, and I really like going to see him, especially when I have some things going on, or if not, seeing him once a year, it's not like it's a pain. It's actually a nice visit, be able to talk to him, make sure everything's okay. So I've gotten into that habit of doing that. So it was, like I said, December of 2021. I went to go see my doctor just for a yearly checkup. Went in like I have my whole life. Went in to talk to him. Got up on the table, we're just having a conversation, and he starts the whole physical, testing my reflexes, testing my shoulders, my strength, my eyesight, my ears, my mouth, my nose, all that fun stuff, testing everything that you do, blood pressure, pulse ox, pulse, all that fun stuff. Just talking about different things. I deal with seasonal allergies. We talked about that. Just a bunch of different stuff that I normally go through throughout a year that we talked about. So he finally gets to the part where he comes up and start listening to my lungs, comes back around to my chest, and he's listening, and I'm not really paying attention. I'm figuring this is just a normal visit. We're all good, and I kind of look over, and he kind of has this look on his face, and he's listening kind of more intently than I've normally seen him. He looks up at me, and he's like, pulls away, and he's like, have we ever tested, or have we ever talked about you having a heart murmur? And I'm like, not that I know of, not that we've ever talked about, no. So he's like, well, hold on, let me look at your chart. And he's like, I haven't written anything down that you've had a heart murmur in the past. Have we ever talked about it? Did I ever tell you that you have a heart murmur? I was like, no, you haven't. You've never told me I had a heart murmur. I don't believe you've ever listened and heard a heart murmur in my heart. I don't think so. So he's like, huh, okay, and comes back over, sits down, and listens to me again, and he's really listening intently, and at this point, I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird. Gets up and takes his stethoscope off, and he's like, yeah, you have a heart murmur. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And, he's like, it can mean a lot of different things. It could be caused by a lot of different things. But it's pretty, it's very relevant. You can hear it very easily. So I'm like, okay, so is that bad? Is that good? Is there something I need to do? Is there something that we need to do medically? And he's like, normally most of these things we'll monitor them for 3 to 6 months. Have you come back in 3 to 6 months, see if it's still there, see if it's gotten worse, see, how things have progressed. He's like, but the way, like I said, I've been going to him for many, many years, so he knows I'm very active. I run, I exercise. He's like, for how active you are, it's kind of weird, and I would prefer to just go ahead and get it checked now, get it tested, go ahead and get an echo done, make sure everything's alright, so you can go on about your business and go on about your days with exercising and running and all that fun stuff. So he sends in, which turns out ended up being the greatest and best thing that ever happened. So he sends in the order. He's like, I'm going to send this in. You should get a call in a couple days, get that thing scheduled, and we'll go from there. So I get a call in a couple days, get the echo scheduled, and they're like, we can't get you in for a month. And I'm like, whew. I'm already kind of nervous because I don't know what this means. I've never had a heart murmur before. Like I said, I'm very active, so I don't want to have any issues with my heart. So I'm like, alright, it was the end of January, and I think at the time they called me, it was like the middle of December. So I'm like, alright, I guess I'll just take the most recent, or closest available. So they give it to me, I think it was like January 26th, or it was like late January. So I wait around a month, kind of nervous that whole month, waiting to just get this thing over with, because you get told you have a heart murmur and you just have to sit around for a month until you can get a test to tell you what's going on. So I was a little nervous, a little anxious, but finally made it to that echo, went in, did the whole echo thing, was there for like an hour. They did the testing. I have no idea. You're in a dark room with one physician assistant, whoever, doing the test. The screen's right there. I was looking at the screen. I have no idea what I was looking at. No idea. I have no background in that whole field. I have some, not medical background, but some biological knowledge and common sense. So I was looking, trying to see what I was looking at, figure out what I was looking at, what was on the screen. some things did look a little weird, but like I said, I had no idea what I was looking at, so I'm not going to make any presumptions on what I was seeing. So leave there, go about my day, go back to work, go work out. Get to the next day, same thing, go to work, go work out. But instead, that day, I think it was like a Thursday, I got done with work, went to work out at the gym. I'm at Crunch Fitness, and I get a phone call. Actually, I see my chart notifications pop up. Test results in, new message, new notification, new notification. I'm like, ooh, this is not good. I see like 4 notifications pop up. Messages, test results, all that. I'm like, ooh, this isn't good. So I click on it, and before I can even get into the test results and look at the messages, I get a phone call, and it's my doctor. So I answer, I'm like, it hadn't even been it'd been just 24 hours since the test had been taken. Usually you don't get those results back that quickly, or get a call from your doctor if everything's good. You usually don't get a call, you just get a message, hey, we're all good. I get a phone call 24 hours after the test, so I'm already kind of freaking out. I'm like, what can be going on? There's got to be something bad. I'm on the phone, I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, we got a problem. Again, the last words you want to hear from your doctor is we got a problem. So I'm like, all right, what's going on? He's like, we read the tests. I had a cardiologist read them, get them in quickly, and you have a messed up mitral valve. Your mitral valve, your rates, regurgitation rate, all that stuff was through the roof. We need to get you in to see a cardiologist immediately, like tomorrow. Or he's like, we need to get you in a cardiologist by next week. Like I said, it was like a Thursday. He's like, I can get you scheduled for either tomorrow or Monday with the guy I'd recommend, but if there's anybody you would want to rather see, let me know. We can try to get you in. So I immediately hang up, call my mom. Hey, we got a problem. I gotta go see a cardiologist. There's something wrong with my heart. Obviously, she's kind of frantic, knowing the whole situation. And she's like, all right, we have a cardiologist that had seen my grandparents. My family liked him, so she's like, I'm gonna call him, see if we can get in with him. I'm like, all right, cool. If we can't, my doctor's got us scheduled with another cardiologist, but if we can get in with him, cool, I'll go there. She calls, she's like, all right, I'll call. Hangs up. I keep going about my workout, kind of heads off in who knows where, and not 20 minutes later, my mom calls me back. Hey, I got you in with Dr. Whatever his name was, one of the best cardiologists in the area. I honestly didn't even know he was taking new patients at the time. That's why I had just kept this one that my doctor scheduled. So she's like, hey, I got you into him. We're getting in on Monday. And I'm like, really? That fast? She's like, yeah, I don't know how it happened, but he had an opening on Monday, and I took it. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I'll be there. Hang up with my mom, call my doctor back, my family physician back, be like, hey, I got an appointment with this guy. Is that all right? He's like, wow, I can't believe you got a visit with him that quickly. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what happened. I didn't even know he was taking patients. But yeah, we got in. He's like, all right, awesome. We'll talk after you see him. I'm like, all right, cool. So again, I go through the whole weekend, nervous and anxious and kind of frantic all weekend, worrying about what can be wrong, as a 22-year-old, you have a heart issue, you're trying to figure out what in the world. Could it be cancer? Could it be heart failure? Could it be something? Is it reversible? Is it irreversible? Am I going to die? Will I be able to live my life the same? Will I be able to work out? All these things are going through my head, and I finally make it to Monday and go in, see him. I'm a nervous wreck. I mean, I couldn't even sit on the table. I'm sitting there shaking. Like, you can see my hands shaking. You can see my whole body shaking. I was so nervous, so scared. So I get in there. They take my blood pressure. It is through the roof. So they were like, all right, we know you're kind of scared, your blood pressure's through the roof, let's just sit down and talk. Sit down with the cardiologist, we start talking, he's like, you have what we call mitral valve stenosis or mitral valve regurgitation. It's where the mitral valve, which sits on the top of or at the bottom of sits in the left ventricle and opens and closes when the left ventricle pushes blood out into your heart. That's the valve that opens and closes to let blood out of the heart pushed into the body. So I'm like, okay, what's that mean? He's like, the flap that the valve is, it opens, and then when it closes, it doesn't close all the way, allowing blood to, instead of being pushed into your body, it sucks back up into your heart, which is not good. He's like, that's less blood going into your body for your body to be able to use to function. So your heart is now working overtime, trying to push more blood into your body, not even talking about dealing with the blood that's getting sucked back up into the heart, where it has to deal with all that. He's like, so your heart muscle itself is thickening and enlarging. Like they explained, the bottom of the heart should look like almost like a cone, V-shaped. He's like, yours looks like a boot. I'm like, all right, this doesn't sound good so far. So what do we got to do? He's like, heart thickening and heart enlarging is actually not a good thing. When you talk about exercising, you talk about, you're tearing your muscles so they get bigger and thicker and fuller. Whereas with the heart, when you exercise it, you actually are shrinking it and making it more efficient and thinner. You want your heart to be thinner and smaller because it's way more efficient that way than being big and thick. So because when it's thick, it's harder to compress, which is harder to squeeze and push the blood out. It's all that crazy stuff of the heart, I'm just sitting there like, okay, what do I gotta do? What's the foreseeable future? What do I gotta do? How do I fix this? He's like, have you been noticing any symptoms? I'm like, I haven't. I mean, maybe I've been kind of short of breath. I've been fatigued, but I have seasonal allergies that cause some asthma, so I didn't equate it to being a heart issue. I equated it, I was just dealing with some allergies. It's that time of year. That's what I go through this time of year. He's like, well, fatigue, shortness of breath, lightheadedness, all that stuff that you're dealing with, that's coming from your heart. I'm like, all right, cool. Now I have an explanation of why I've been feeling so weird lately. He's like, it's gotten pretty bad. Just dealing with, looking at the echo, your heart is in bad shape. We are going to have to more than likely have surgery. You're going to have open heart surgery. Because you are so young, there are actually 2 routes that we can take. We can do that like traditional route where we cut you open down the middle, crack your sternum, go in through that way, fix the valve, repair it. We don't have to replace it because of your age. We should be able to just repair it. Plus, if they replaced it, they would have had to use a cadaver or a pig heart, which only lasted like 15, 20 years. So I would have had it constantly replaced every 15 to 20 years. And like I said, I was 22, so I could have had to have that thing replaced 3-4 times by the time the end of my life. So they were like, we're just going to go in and repair it. We can do the traditional down the middle, So I'm like thinking, I watched my grandparents go through that. It was terrible. And I really didn't want a massive scar down the middle of my chest and deal with a broken sternum and deal with all that. So I'm kind of freaking out, thinking I have to do that. And he's like, there is a newer option that a doctor that actually just joined us came up with and invented, and it's a minimally invasive, where they go in through the side of your chest cavity, through like the pectoral muscle, and go through the ribs, and go in that way without having to break any bones, without having to cut you all the way open. You'll have a much smaller incision on the side of your chest versus the big one down the middle. So I'm like, okay, I'd rather do that one. Can we do that one? He's like, actually, the surgeon that I'm talking about is actually right down the hall right today. So I'm actually going to go talk to him right now. And you guys stay here. I may bring him back if he has time. But I'm going to go talk to him right now, see if he has availability. Because we need to get you into him tomorrow, as soon as possible. So I'm like, alright, cool. I'm sitting there with my mom. My mom came with me that day. And I'm freaking out. I'm sitting there, I'm shaking, rubbing my hands, rubbing my head, doing all that stuff because I'm freaking out. I'm like, I'm 22 years old. I'm being told my heart is in like horrific condition. They really didn't. I mean, they told me it was in bad condition. They didn't tell me like what could be the outcome of that. Like, they just said, you know, your heart's in bad shape. We need to get it fixed. So that 5 minutes that I was sitting there waiting for him to come back, I thought it felt like an hour. It was terrible. I was freaking out, like I said. I was looking at my mom was freaking out, and it was not a fun time. So they came back in and he was like, introduced himself, said, hey, you know, I'd like to take you on as a patient, and I've got some availability. I can't remember if it was the day after or the 2 days after I was talking to him, but he's like, I got some availability, come in, we'll talk about everything about the heart, about your situation, about the mitral valve, about the heart, about the different valves, about the different ventricles, everything that goes into it. We'll talk about the surgery, we'll talk about the recovery, we'll talk about time in the hospital, we'll talk about everything. So I'm like, alright, cool. So again, I gotta wait another day or two to go and see this doctor, see this surgeon. So, make it to that day, and we get in the office, comes and greets us. He brings his physician assistant, whatever that guy was, and they take us into this consultation room. Not even a doctor's office, it was really like a consultation room. And big TV screen, big long table. Felt like looked like a business meeting. And he pulls up, gets his computer connected, starts talking. He's like, you know, you're in a bit of a bad situation here. I looked at the echo. I had whoever this guy was. He looked at the echo. He's like, they both were like, yeah, your heart's in rough condition, but we can fix it. And then he got into the part where he's like, you know, even if we go in here and fix it, this may not fully heal. Your heart may not fully heal. He's like, your heart may not ever reshape itself back to its true size and be as efficient as it once was. So I'm like, all right. At this point in this visit, like I said, this is my fourth visit in this whole process. My mind is not there. I was just kind of sitting there shaking my head. Okay, cool. I let my mom kind of ask the questions and figure everything out because I was freaking out. I was so nervous, so anxious. And that's one thing that I never really talked about is how nervous and scared I was during that whole process. So I sat there, I was just kind of shaking my head like, okay, yeah, whatever's best, let my mom kind of deal with all the questions and the answers and all that stuff. So he's like, it could be reversible. It could not be reversible. Your heart may, if we get in there and fix it, it could go back to its original size and become just as efficient as it once was, or it may not reshape itself back to its previous size, and it may not ever be as efficient as it once was. But that's going to be just how the heart recovers. We can't judge how it's going to recover. We can't judge how it's going to reshape itself. We can't judge how efficient it's going to be after the surgery. All we can do is fix the problem and then let the heart fix itself. He finally was like, you know, this is something, you're really lucky that you have a doctor like you do. And this is it. He finally kind of snapped me out of it, and I started listening, like paying attention. He's like, you know, you're very lucky that you have a doctor like you do, because most like family physicians would not have sent you for testing. They would have said, I'll see you back in 6 months, and we'll see how it is from there. And he's like, to be honest with you, this was the first time anybody had been truly honest with me and how bad my situation was. He's like, and this is the part it starts to get tough to talk about. He's like, your situation, you wouldn't have made it 6 months. Or you would have been lucky to make it 6 months to the next visit, if that's what he did. And that's really when I was like, oh, okay, this is really bad. And he's like, them talking about the surgeon, he's like, this is to the point where, like you said, I had been seeing symptoms, but I hadn't really put them with my heart. Like I said, I'm 22 years old. I'm physically fit, in shape, exercise all the time. I didn't expect my heart to be the one failing me. So he goes on, he's like, there's options, but there's really not options. We can go in and do the surgery and fix it, or we don't. He's like, you can try to live it out and see what happens and make it as long as you can without having the surgery. But he's like, that could be 6 months from now. That could be a year from now. That could be a month from now. He's like, that could be a couple days from now. He's like, there's no telling when your heart's going to give out. But it's to the point where it could give out at any point, and we can't figure out. We're not going to be able to tell you when it's going to give out. And again, like I said, he was the first one to be like bluntly honest with me, which I actually really appreciated. But it was like, it hit me. I'm like, okay, I got to get this fixed now. So I finally was like, okay, let's do the surgery. When can we do it? I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And so he's like, all right, we'll go in. We can fix it. We can repair it. You'll be in the hospital for 3 days post-surgery. As long as everything goes according to plan, nothing major happens or anything like that. So it's like you'll be in the hospital for 3 days in recovery, being monitored, while we come in and do some breathing work, while we get you up and walk you around. You have to do so many, walk so much before you leave. You have to do this before you leave. He's like, I go out of town, I think it was like a Tuesday. I go out of town the rest of this week for a seminar, because he gives seminars on this surgery he created. And I'll be back beginning of next week. Let's get you, I think I have availability that Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever March 15th, 2022 was. I think I have availability that day. Let's get you scheduled in, get you in the morning, get you fixed up. So we go out, get it scheduled. Like I said, it was like a week away. He's like, you can go about your day normally. Don't exert yourself, like basically at all. It's like, do what you have to do, but don't do anything more than that. Don't go out and run. Don't go lifting heavy weights. Don't go lifting really anything. Go about your day. Don't do anything extra. Let's get you to surgery and get you fixed, and not do anything that could cause any more damage, or that could force you to not be able to show up for surgery. So next week, I basically don't work out at all. I don't run, don't do anything but go to work and come home and sit down. So do that for, like I said, a week, and finally make it to surgery day, go into surgery, and that's where we're going to end today. That's why this channel is called Heart to Heart, because we're having heart-to-heart conversations. That's why I call my team Heart to Heart, because I want to have heart-to-heart conversations about this whole process, about my story, about other people's story. I want to sit down and talk to others who have been through similar things, who have gone through hardships, hard times of life, gone through issues, and come out of it on the other side stronger and better. So join the Heart to Heart team. I will be posting that link in my bio and in this video. It's also going to be on my Facebook, my Instagram, all that. Come join the Heart to Heart team. Heart Mini Marathon is March 16th, 2025. That's why it's also awesome. It's one day after my 3-year anniversary of having heart surgery. So yeah, come join the team. If you know anybody who has gone through any heart issues, especially if they were under the age of 25, shoot them my way. I would love to talk to them. That's a wrap for today. Yeah, it was great talking to you guys. I am looking forward to many, many more of these heart-to-heart conversations. Great to see you. Have a good Sunday. Let's have a great week. Let's go.